Well, Gerard Butler has been a staple on the big screen for decades, and Georgie Tunney sat down with the star to hear all about the role he can't believe he gets to tackle all over again.
Everyone thought they knew Gerard Butler, the fearless action star and the man behind some of Hollywood's most daring roles. But what about his personal life? Behind the fame and the action-packed roles, something heartbreaking has quietly been unfolding. How does a man who seems unstoppable cope when life itself becomes the enemy? And what happens when the cost of fame starts to crush the very person we thought we knew? Sometimes a story hits harder when you understand the person at the center of it.
That kind of storyline that resonates with so many people.
Family it's the most important thing too, is whether you're a son or father, not just father-son, but mother-daughter, mother-son.
And before we get into the heartbreaking turn Gerard Butler's life has taken, it's important we rewind for a moment and look at who Gerard Butler was before he became famous. Also, what parts of his journey do most people never talk about? The foundation of Gerard Butler. Many would think that Gerard Butler was born with a silver spoon or a Hollywood charmed life. However, that was far from it. Born on November 13, 1969 in Paisley, Scotland, as the youngest of 3 children, his early years were not so easy. His parents, Margaret and Edward Butler, were just a normal couple trying to make ends meet. But that ordinary start hid a silent force that would come to shape his entire life. By the time he was 2, his father, Edward, left the family. The reasons were complicated, tied to financial struggles and personal choices, but the effects of this particular act were a lot. His mother, Margaret, suddenly had to take on a role that was heavier than anyone should have to bear, providing not only for her children's needs but also protecting them from the uncertainty Edward left behind. She became a force of endurance, balancing work and home life with an intensity that left little room for weakness. But how did young Gerard process that absence, and how much of it would go unseen for years? Well, his mother's determination shaped every day of his childhood. Gerard Butler later reflected that she had been both a mother and father, a constant presence that was fierce, protective, and relentless. There were no shortcuts or anything, just daily lessons in survival and resilience. It was a kind of upbringing that left Gerard both grateful and quietly burdened. He learned to measure the weight of loss early, even as he chased small joys in an otherwise uncertain world. For 14 years, Gerard Butler's father was absent, and not even his shadow was seen in the household. He grew up haunted by nightmares that his mother would disappear. His deepest fear was abandonment. He wasn't just shadowed by what was missing, he was haunted by it. However, when he was 16, something changed. His father reportedly appeared from nowhere, and that moment of their reunion was deeply emotional. On that day, he just came home from school, and his stepfather, who was his mother's boyfriend at the time, said, "Keep your jacket on. Your dad's here." Immediately, he saw his father. Gerard asked, "Why didn't you get in touch?" and wept for hours. It was an unfiltered confrontation with years of longing, anger, and a hope that had not yet died. That meeting, brief and emotionally raw, left as many questions as it answered, setting the stage for a complicated relationship that would never fully heal. In the years that followed, Gerard visited his father in Canada during the summers, hoping to understand this man he had spent most of his life imagining. Those visits brought short bursts of connection, though the gap of missing years always lingered in the room. Later, when Gerard was 22, he learned his father was dying of cancer. He spent his father's final weeks by his side, determined not to repeat the distance that had marked their past. The pain was personal, but it became part of the foundation on which he would stand. The absence and later loss of his father left an imprint on every aspect of his life. Gerard spoke honestly about how growing up without a strong father figure affected him. He admitted it played a role in his struggle with commitment and shaped how he approached relationships. Being raised by a single mother influenced how he trusted people and how he protected himself emotionally. It wasn't something he used as an excuse. It was simply part of his truth. In many ways, these early experiences settled deep inside him. They pushed him to strive, to succeed, and to be emotionally guarded. The longing, the loss, and the pain of not knowing whether he was enough forged his drive and underscored everything he would later become. However, how far would that drive take him, and what price would it demand along the way? As Gerard grew older, the echoes of his early life followed him into the next phase, shaping decisions he didn't even know he was making. What happens when the path you trust sends you into a wall? And what do you do when your career begins to fall apart before your eyes? Career collapse and rebirth. By the time Gerard Butler entered his 20s, he was walking down a path that looked good from the outside, or so it seemed. Gerard had invested years studying law, learning the rules, passing exams, and preparing for a future many people would have been proud of. But deep down, that path felt borrowed. He moved through each day with the quiet sense that he was living someone else's plan, not his own. And this feeling slowly grew heavier, pressing on him in a way he couldn't ignore forever. During his training at a law firm in Edinburgh, the tension between who he was and who he was expected to be grew even stronger. Gerard had the talent to succeed, yes. However, what he didn't have was the desire to live inside the strict world that defined the firm. He missed work often and drifted into a lifestyle that clashed with everything the legal profession demanded. There was no dramatic downfall, no headline moment. It was just a slow unraveling. Before anyone knew it, something unexpected hit him. 1 week before he was supposed to qualify, the firm fired him. The decision landed hard, not because the job meant everything to him, but because he knew what it would mean for his mother to hear the news. And that fear cut deeper than losing the career itself. The fact that he had to call home was gut-wrenching to him. Just like we said earlier, his mother, Margaret, had been the strongest part of his life. She carried the family when his father left, worked long hours, and supported him through every twist in his journey. Now he had to tell her that the future he'd worked toward had fallen apart. Gerard later admitted that his first thought wasn't about losing the job. It was about the disappointment he imagined in his mother's voice. He mentioned that telling his mother was difficult because she had been proudly telling everyone her son was going to be a lawyer. The firing, which occurred just 1 week before he was due to qualify, was a low point at the time, but he and his mother eventually discussed his future, and he decided that he was going to move to London to pursue acting. It wasn't because acting was his long-held dream, it was an escape, a last attempt to find something that made him feel alive. He needed a restart, something that would wipe away the weight he'd been carrying for years. Acting was the only door left open, and he stepped through it without knowing if there was anything on the other side. Looking back, Gerard spoke openly about how that firing eventually saved him. Losing his legal career pushed him toward a life he never planned for, yet one that fit him far more naturally than law ever could. He once said that what felt like failure ended up being the beginning of everything that followed. The collapse of his old life forced him to chase something real, something he could finally call his own. What started as a fall turned into the beginning of a new identity. And as he stepped into the unknown, he had no idea his entire world was about to shift again. The climb through obscurity. When Gerard Butler stepped into Hollywood, there was no applause waiting for him. His start was quiet, almost easy to miss. In 1997, he played Archie Brown in Mrs. Brown, followed by a small part in the Bond film Tomorrow Never Dies. These weren't life-changing moments, but they were the first signs that he might actually have a place in the industry. What no one knew at the time was how much these small steps would matter later. He kept taking whatever roles he could find. In 1998, he showed up in Tale of the Mummy as Burke, a part most movie fans never even noticed. Still, Gerard didn't treat it like a throwaway job. He treated it as though he were practicing. Every film set, every audition, every short moment on camera was another chance to build something. It was a slow, steady work, and it left people wondering if he had anything bigger in him. As time went by, a shift began to occur in 2000 when he played Dracula in Dracula 2000. The movie wasn't a major hit, but it pulled him out of the shadows enough for casting directors to look at him twice. It didn't make him a star, but it changed the way people in the business talked about him. For the first time, he wasn't the guy filling space. He was someone worth watching. And that small change would matter more than anyone expected. In 2001, Gerard stepped into the lead role of Attila, playing Attila the Hun in a television miniseries. It gave him a chance to show he could carry a project, and he proved it with the kind of intensity that made people remember his face. It was still far from fame, but it added something to his name. The question now was whether he could build on it, or if this would be another peak that faded away. By 2003, Gerard was gaining more ground. He played Andrei Marek in Timeline, based on the Michael Crichton novel, and he appeared in Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life. These roles didn't make him the centerpiece of Hollywood, yet they placed him in bigger rooms, next to bigger stars, under brighter lights. Little by little, the industry began to change the way it saw him, and that slow shift was starting to grow into something real. Through all of this, the work was demanding. Gerard kept showing up to auditions, kept studying roles, and kept proving he was dependable. He wasn't known for charm or insider connections. He was known for effort. Still, the recognition he wanted didn't come right away. It left him in a strange place where he was doing everything right and still waiting for his moment. That wait would soon test him in ways he wasn't prepared for. Back in Scotland, his mother watched every step he took. She believed in him long before the world did, and her support gave him the confidence to stay in the fight. When his career felt like a long hallway with no door at the end, her faith kept him from turning back. This quiet belief pushed him forward at a time when most people would have walked away, and that loyalty would prove to be more important than he ever imagined. Suddenly, something was starting to shift around Gerard Butler, and the ground beneath his career was beginning to move. The explosion. After years of crawling his way through forgettable roles and long auditions, his life flipped overnight. In 2006, Gerard's world went from grinding obscurity to full-scale earthquake. With one roar, he transformed into King Leonidas, the Spartan warrior king whose defiance echoed through every corner of pop culture. Overnight, he stopped being that Scottish actor struggling to get by and became a symbol of raw strength, mythic power, and unshakable determination. The movie 300 catapulted him into global stardom. The roar he delivered in that film didn't stay on screen. It echoed into his real life, pushing him into a spotlight he never expected would burn so bright. When 300 premiered, it was more than an action movie. It was a phenomenon, and people didn't see Gerard Butler as the regular guy anymore. They saw him as the warrior who refused to kneel for anybody. The movie became a cultural force, shaping conversations, memes, gym routines, and even Halloween costumes. Audiences treated him like he had stepped straight out of ancient history, and the industry finally looked at him with the kind of respect he had chased for years. The success felt like something he had worked for his entire life, even if he never saw it coming in that form. But behind all that glory was a reality that almost no one outside the production saw. Gerard later revealed how brutal the filming process actually was, not just mentally, but physically too. According to him, on set, every day somebody was getting taken to the hospital. It wasn't just mere talks. It actually happened. He watched men fall, spears fly, and injuries pile up, all while pushing through the scenes that would make 300 legendary. During a violent scene, he remembered turning around during a fight and seeing a fellow actor writhing on the ground, a spear near his eye. On another occasion, someone landed wrong during a stunt and fractured their ankle. Of course, the set looked epic on camera, but in real life it came with risk around every corner. Now, Gerard Butler himself wasn't spared. He threw himself into the training harder than he ever had before. In a detailed set visit interview, he revealed that he sometimes worked 6 hours a day. From intense training hours with his trainer to hours spent sword fighting, carrying shields, and wearing capes that weighed him down. He admitted that this whole training tested him not just physically, but mentally. Could that have been him paying for the crown of fame? According to reports, the workouts weren't casual routines, and some of the casts were pushed to their limits. Most of their training included brutal weighted lunges, squats held under tension, and near-constant conditioning. The Spartan bodies on screen weren't just a result of makeup or muscle. They were gotten from sheer discipline and pain. By the time filming wrapped, Gerard wasn't the same man who had walked onto the set months earlier. Even though Gerard has said he avoided a major catastrophe during filming, the physical toll was real and lingering. There were no daily hospital visits for him personally, according to his account, but the scars stayed. He carried them forward even as his fame exploded. Now, Gerard's life had always been about pushing limits, but some battles weren't scripted. In 2012, while filming Chasing Mavericks, he found himself face-to-face with nature's fury. The Northern California surf spot was infamous for its massive waves, and one day, the ocean showed him just how fragile life could be. He later admitted, "I thought I was done," as he struggled against a wave that had taken him under and held him there. His surf leash snapped away, leaving him battered and gasping for air. When he finally surfaced, exhaustion burned through every muscle, and for a moment, survival felt uncertain. What followed was more than a scare. It was a medical emergency. Gerard was rushed to the hospital, and medics used a defibrillator to shock his heart back to life. The actor described the moment as intense, proof that the dangers he faced didn't stop at choreographed fight scenes or stunts. It was clear that the ocean didn't negotiate or cut corners. Nature was unpredictable, and in that moment, Gerard confronted the fragility that comes with living a life on the edge. You see, this incident was only one in a series of near-death experiences that quietly marked Gerard Butler's career. While filming in Iceland, he battled near hypothermia, pushing through icy waters that could have drained anyone else. During another shoot in Montreal, oppressive heat almost overcame him as he performed long takes in heavy costumes. And then there was the Range Rover stunt, a high-speed crash where his neck took a hard impact, reminding him that even vehicles could become instruments of danger. Each of these incidents stacked on top of the other, forming a hidden mountain of risk few knew about. After enduring the physical torture of 300, Gerard's body was already worn, but these near-death moments stacked up to test him even more. He didn't just survive, he was pushed to his limit again and again, in ways most people never saw. In a life that's often framed by strength, his close calls revealed a different kind of toughness. And though those experiences could have ended him, he still kept going. The explosion of his career was thrilling, loud, and impossible to miss. And as he stood on top of the world, Gerard started to realize that this wasn't the finish line. It was the start of another fight, one he never saw coming. The hidden battles, addiction, and dangerous stunts. Gerard's journey after 300 wasn't just about soaring higher. It came with a darker price. The glory of playing Leonidas was real, but so was the toll his body paid. After that film, the pain didn't stop. In interviews, he has admitted that his body was literally falling apart from all the physical demands. The scars from his training and the injuries were not just surface level. They ran deep under his skin. To cope with the pain, Gerard turned to prescription painkillers. At first, he thought it was a practical solution. Pills allowed him to keep moving, to push through the soreness and the tight muscles without losing control. But over time, that coping strategy spiraled. The painkillers stopped being a safety net and turned into a trap. The pills that helped him survive the pain slowly started ruining his life. He found himself taking them daily, not to feel good, but to avoid feeling his own body. That chemical refuge offered relief, but it also hid deeper damage. Gerard has talked about having an addictive personality, a strength that helped him push through years of struggle that is now working against him. The same drive that made him train harder, perform better, and push his limits also made it difficult to walk away when things got dangerous. He kept chasing that feeling of control, of being able to handle it, even when it was becoming a monster. But the reality was that he was losing the fight. By 2012, things reached a breaking point. Gerard checked himself into the Betty Ford Center, entering a 3-week program to confront the issue. His addiction to prescription painkillers had become impossible to ignore. Reports also tied his struggle to illicit substances, though he and his team emphasized that prescription painkillers were the biggest issue. He described being at a point where the pain in his body was matched by the storm in his mind. It was a struggle on every level, and ignoring it was no longer an option. At Betty Ford, the treatment was as tough as it sounded. Gerard spoke about the intensity, saying the pain, the regret, and the fear of repeating the same mistakes forced him to face everything. He called it spring cleaning, a process that stripped away layers of denial and shame. It was painful and exhausting, but it was necessary for him to build something sustainable, to reclaim his life from the grip of substances. When he completed the program, his representatives confirmed he left in good health. He handled it quietly, avoiding headlines and public dramatics, choosing realism over spectacle. The transformation, though private, was real. Gerard Butler has said the experience made him stronger and more grounded, giving him the tools to manage his life, without relying on external crutches. Gerard Butler also admitted that he felt pissed off when everyone assumed that he went to rehab because he was drinking. He went ahead to say, "When you hear the word rehab, you think, he is a mess. But I'm glad I did it. I've made a lot of wrong decisions in my life, but I know I've made some right ones as well." Now, to Gerard, staying sober became a commitment. For over 15 years, he has avoided alcohol, maintaining his sobriety with strict discipline. The work he put into therapy mirrored the intensity he brought to his film roles, but now the battlefield was his own mind and body. The man who could carry the weight of a Spartan shield and train for 6 hours straight now had to fight a battle that required patience, self-reflection, and honesty. Gerard's path through addiction shows a different kind of courage. It wasn't about stunts or performing on camera. It was about facing the parts of himself he had tried to ignore. The painkillers, the near misses, and the quiet hours of struggle built a new kind of strength. He reclaimed control not with force or aggression, but with awareness and dedication. The warrior strength he portrayed on screen now had to be matched by the warrior work off-screen. And while the road to recovery was never simple, the fact that he made it through proves the depth of his resilience. Life had already thrown him into the deep end, and he came out breathing. Do you think the next on-set challenge will break that streak of luck? More dangers on set. Gerard has always been known for throwing himself fully into a role, but some of the scariest moments of his career didn't happen in choreographed fights. While filming Plane, a routine scene nearly turned into a disaster. Hydraulic fluid spilled across the set, and what he thought was just an ordinary slick turned out to be phosphoric acid. Gerard found it on his face, burning his eyes, nose, and throat. He told Seth Meyers he felt like he was burning. Still, he didn't panic. He kept going through the scene, driven by focus and determination, even as the acid threatened his safety. When we look at it from another angle, we begin to think, at what cost does he give his all? And how far can someone push before the risk outweighs the reward? Well, not long after, Gerard Butler faced another brutal challenge during Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. Just a month after surgery, he entered production with a knee that hadn't healed fully and soon tore his ACL completely. He said, "I made this movie with a freshly torn ACL. It was pretty rough. Every step, every jump, every fight scene carried new danger." He described the shoot as a nightmare, joking that he was a whiny little bitch whenever he had to climb the endless stairs that dotted the film. The physical pain was relentless, but the mental strain of knowing his body was unstable added a weight few on set could understand. These incidents weren't isolated, and the dedication is undeniable, but it prompts a deeper look at sustainability. How much more can he endure before the limits of his body catch up? How much risk is acceptable when performing stunts that strain not only muscles and ligaments, but also the mind? Even heroes have limits, and watching him navigate them offers a glimpse into the private battles behind the on-screen glory. Every scar, every setback, every painful climb up a flight of stairs tells a story of a career built on defiance, courage, and the willingness to keep going when most would stop. And yet, as injuries stack and his body fights back, the story remains unresolved. How long can this pace continue before the next accident forces a pause? How much more can the warrior endure before he meets a fight that's too much even for him? The answers aren't clear, and the uncertainty keeps the audience leaning in, wondering what comes next for a man who has always thrown himself into danger without hesitation. We've followed Gerard through his career and the injuries that shaped him, but the story doesn't stop on set. What was happening behind the cameras, in his personal life, where no script could protect him? And how did the man who seemed unstoppable deal with pain no one else could see? Heartbreaking news for Gerard Butler. The battles Gerard faced in his career were fierce, but the struggles in his personal life cut just as deep, if not deeper. After more than a decade together, his relationship with interior designer Morgan Brown reportedly hit a rough patch. Reports say she is no longer willing to put her life on hold, worn down by his constant travel and unpredictable schedule. The long-distance, high-demand lifestyle wasn't something anyone could endure forever. Morgan Brown wasn't just a companion for red carpet appearances or magazine shoots. She believed in Gerard, supported him through long nights on set, and stayed by his side during career highs and lows. But the pressure of his career combined with years of commitment delays, created emotional fatigue. Friends close to the couple said Gerard is no closer to proposing than he was 5 years ago, despite earlier talks about settling down and starting a family. This kind of uncertainty weighs heavily on any relationship. The tension revealed something bigger than a delayed engagement. Loving Gerard meant hoping for a commitment, while his life seemed to run on a different clock, driven by deadlines, roles, and travel. Without children, and with the demands of fame pulling him in every direction, their dynamic became more complicated than a simple romance. The strain built quietly, leaving room for questions about how relationships survive when one person is always on the move. Amid that personal struggle, a deeper loss lingered. Gerard's mother, Margaret Call, passed away, leaving a wound that nothing could soothe. Her death didn't just affect him emotionally, it reshaped him. When the live-action How to Train Your Dragon came out, its ending carried a powerful tribute, dedicated to the loving memory of Margaret Call. It was a small phrase on the screen, but the meaning ran far deeper. Gerard spoke openly about what the dedication meant. In a radio interview, he said he had hoped she would see the film, though he sensed she wasn't going to make it. He described her with heartfelt admiration. "If Stoic had a mom, that would have been my mom. She was strong, fiery, graceful, and beautiful." Those words weren't solely for the show. They carried the weight of a son reflecting on a life shaped by someone who gave him courage, guidance, and love. Margaret Call once wrote him a letter expressing that she wanted him to be happy no matter what path he chose. This belief and unconditional support was something Gerard carried into every audition and every role. Losing her wasn't simply losing a parent, it was losing a foundation he had relied on since childhood. So, the tribute in How to Train Your Dragon acknowledged a loss that will continue to remain a deeply felt wound. In the quiet moments, away from cameras and applause, these personal pains show a man navigating loss, love, and life in ways that few ever see. Do you think Gerard Butler is a hero for surviving it all? Or is the relentless pursuit of stardom slowly destroying the man behind the legend? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. To enjoy more content like this, click on the next video on your screen.